Effectivement, il y a des tas qui ne veulent pas. Enfin, moi, je crois qu'il y a une
Hello, how you doing? Hello. But yesterday, say, oh, that you're going. Yeah, amo cuando todo se adapta a mi necesidad. Ya había estañido, no me estoy muriendo. Sí. Hello. I live. Yeah. member in the meeting echo. So this time, actually, we have a remote participation to present a young model for the microwave. Okay.
Let's see if everything works. Jonas, can you hear us?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Perfect.
And maybe you can see me. I don't know. I've enabled my video now.
We can see you. Thanks.
Sounds great. Okay.
Good.
So this time we have a busy agenda. So maybe next time we will ask for more time, but I think it depends. If we have more drafts to be presented in the next time, we can ask, for example, a 2-hour session. Otherwise, we can still keep the 90 minutes. So here is the agenda. So please follow the agenda and use your time slot efficiently. IPR process, which is very important, you know. So usually we will do the IPR polling prior to moving to next step in WG working group process. So for example, before an individual draft becomes a working group draft, or a working group document goes to last call, we will, you know, send out IPR polling, and the authors and the contributors have to reply the polling. Otherwise, the draft will be held on. And also, we strongly encourage people to use the list more actively. We know that any open issues, any technical stuff can be discussed in the list. So, and also we know that working group consensus is determined on the main list rather than in the face-to-face meeting. So, you know, the discussion on the list is quite very important for us.
Okay, a short update on the status of the working group. We have a new errata. It has been confirmed and approved. It was just a typo against RFC 3473. We have a bunch of new RFCs, mostly on WSON and FlexiGrid. So thanks everyone for the huge effort in progressing all of these documents efficiently towards the RFC status. We also have in a draft in the ISG processing status, the OTN signal type sub-registry. It's actually waiting for IANA review. We hope to progress it soon. What else? Liaisons, we have received one from the ITUT study group 15, received on the 8th of March. It's basically the classical update on the OTN work being carried on by the ITU study group 15. We have a pretty intense interaction with the BBF on packet optical networks, packet optical integration. It's basically reflected in these two liaisons sent and received by the Ccamp. Moving to the working group drafts, we have 4 of them being presented today, and 4 of them which want to be presented, but we have some a short overview from the authors. Thanks a lot, Gabriele. Okay. So I don't know if the authors are here in the room and want to come to the mic to speak about the progresses. Please, Shen.
Shen from Huawei, the editor for the draft coordinator. So the draft was updated last time, and since last time we haven't received any comments yet. So no updates since last meeting. We don't see any open issues. And since the related framework, label, and signaling is already published as RFC, so we're requesting the WG last call for this draft. Thank you.
Thank you. IV info.
Xian again from Huawei. So this dropped. There's no update since last IETF, and we haven't received any issues at the moment. Giovanni, the other coordinator, he actually drafted a text to the liaison to ITU in terms of this draft as well as the encoding draft.
Yep.
So it's already sent to the list, but we haven't received any feedback.
Okay.
So the next step we see is that we would like to suggest to send the liaison out to the ITU if there's no problem with that, and also as next step for the companion draft in the encoding, we'd
Okay.
like to see if possible to moving as a working group document.
Okay, so, well, actually, since some time is passed, may I ask you to send the text again to the mailing list to see if we have some comments, and then we can draft the liaison?
Yeah, sure. We can do
Thanks a lot. Signal type. I think our co-chair is one of the authors of this draft, isn't it? Please.
Any other authors from the floor? Okay, I can say something on this draft. So actually, for this draft, we had lots of discussion on the list. So after much debate, that we got some agreement, which is that the draft is proposed the standard, and also the registry policy can support both standard actions and the specification required. This is for the signal type bus registration draft. The second one is about the signal type OTM for OTM. So actually, this draft is hold on, and it depends on the progress of the first draft. So right now there's no open issue, so it can move forward to get, after the first draft. Thank you.
Yang.
Yeah, I think we ran into a little problem here. I think this document was adopted, and I think we had some action item that section 2, we'd like to remove some unclear text, which is fine. But when I tried to upload, changing individual to Ccamp, we had to now run not only ID NIT, but also Yang verification.
Mm-hmm.
But current tool doesn't allow us to kind of not having model in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that syntax error, IETF T topology not found in the search, because in our current draft, we only refers to from the document that we are augmenting from.
Mm-hmm.
So the point here is that we have to change either, I don't know what process we should follow. We have to change the content to allow the model to be part of the draft so that we can pass Yang.
Okay.
So that's kind of the open issue right now. So it's not technical issue, it's just a procedural issue.
Okay.
And has to do with Yang tool, which IETF doesn't have enough tool to get around this problem. If any Yang model augment from other document, the model itself is reside in other documents, so it cannot pass this Yang verification.
I understand.
So that's the problem.
Okay,
Maybe
let's try.
Yeah.
Let's try to solve this offline, maybe with the help of the authors of the T topology draft.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
It's our first Yang draft, so sooner or later we had to face these issues.
Right. Okay.
Thanks, Yang. Okay, we are ready. Greg? Where is Greg? Oh.
I don't know, but usually when I publish these kind of documents, you will see me forward them to the right mailing list, nano, and so on. Yes, I usually do that.
It would be nice to get real advice there. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very simple. Again, once again, Greg Mirsky, part of this very capable team. And so the work was to create a way of defining their microwave characteristic, which has a variable, discretely variable bandwidth. It's a very specific medium. And this work been originally done in MPOS working group, I believe. Then when we have reorganization, the document was already adopted and then just inherited by the Ccamp group. We have a very extensive discussion about how to use Ethernet bandwidth profile. And based on the discussion, we made the most recent changes to the document so that now we have the index field, which can be used to associate the availability parameter with the indexed bandwidth parameter, which is part of Ethernet bandwidth profile TOV. So thus, you can have several scenarios. You can have a scenario where you have multiple bandwidth profiles and they characterized by the same availability, or you can have each of Ethernet profiles indexed characterized by the different indexed availability TOV. So the index in both TOVs can be used to correlate their records. So here's the illustration what you can have. In the first example, you see that you have index 1 and 2 for the Ethernet bandwidth profile, and you have corresponding 1 and 2 for the availability. In the second, you have a specific Ethernet bandwidth profile, and with index 0 as defined in Ethernet bandwidth profile. So index 0 is applicability to everything, right? So you have availability TOV, which is applicable to all existing and defined Ethernet bandwidth profiles. So these are now how proposed it's to work. And authors ask a working group to consider last call. And there is a accompanying document which describes OSPF extension to do their availability advertisement necessary. It had very minor changes as well to make it consistent with the changes that we've done for RSVP extension document. And again, since these are two complementing documents, we're asking for the working group last call. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Greg.
No, design the hardware, not operate
Good
it.
afternoon, everyone. This is
So, I mean, you quickly, you know, so why
with
would we try to encode limitations or non-limit an operations document?
If you play outside of these limits, things don't work. So rather than trying to, encode limits, what we are trying to do
this version is the third version, and comparison with the previous version, the main change is adding a new section to describe the grid property using async requirements for the interdomain scenario. And we do think in this scenario, LMP is useful, and it can facilitate a flexible grid network in a plug and play way. And maybe we should update the current draft to a new version to rearrange the content in section 4 following Fatah's comments in the mailing list today. And from the slide 3 to the end, we just show the
And that might actually be a
some
little dated.
implementation information. The slide 3 does show the initial state of the two peer nodes at the opposite side of a link. And we can see from
I'd
the
say a little bit more
picture
generous and more realistic of what we have today
have different
and what we might have in the near future.
great property.
Which
And from
science fiction
slide
to
4
me.
to
I mean,
end,
Ethernet switch ASICs are like
just show
the future looks a lot like the near present.
extended. And this negotiation process followed that defining RPC 4204. First, one side send the link summary message to the other side, and the other side first check the value and then send the accepted at the node 1 to the previous peer node to indicate the property value that we want. And then the first side initiate the negotiation process again to continue the negotiation process. And then the other side send the link summary acknowledgement message to the A side to finish the whole negotiation process. And I think this process has no different as that defined in RFC 4204. So this slide doesn't show the implementation detail. And at the end, we just want to
it's currently
still request some comments from
already done.
working groups.
To actually
and
have
we
in the future,
still
and
think
we shouldn't just constrain ourselves that way.
The inter-domain scenarios. So we hope this structure can still move forward.
It's nice to see that there is an implementation. At the last meeting, we did a polling to know how many people were interested in progressing the draft. If I correctly remember, the support wasn't that high. I would like to try this poll again. So how many people think that this draft is ready to go on? This is what I suspected. Second question, how many people have read the draft? Okay, this is a surprise. So a lot of people read the draft, but no one thinks it's ready to go on. Can anyone go to the mic and say why, please? Now you are all shy. Come on, Peter.
Dieter Beller, Nokia. I think I have provided my comments already in some earlier Ccamp sessions. I believe that, well, the negotiation of the FlexGrid capabilities does not make a lot of sense because you will probably operate your network either in full FlexGrid capability or you will operate your network in a traditional way where you have no FlexGrid support.
So, well, actually, before taking a decision, we would like to hear a little bit more comments. If you would like to take them to the list, that's fine. But please help us taking a decision. In addition to that, we would like to know if there is any plan for implementation. I guess I already know the answer. And this is another input that we would like to receive in order to decide if and how to progress this draft. Thank you. Sean?
Please, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Hinden. So I'm mostly agreeing with what
Buenos tardes. My name is Xian.
Mark and
I'm
Joel said.
presenting
I mean, the way I think about it
for
is,
draft with
creating
a very
limits
long name.
based on the way
It's,
stuff
YAM
works
models
today,
for the
it's
most
going to hurt us in the
interface
future
of a
because
transport network
the
controller requirements,
capabilities will
functions,
get
and
better.
basic
And I also
models.
sort of think,
I'm presenting
maybe
on
more
behalf
importantly,
of
this seems like a self-correcting
authors
problem.
and the
If
contributors in the
people
slides.
build, someone tries something out with a very long header chain and it gets very bad performance, they will probably stop. So I'm not sure it has, it's like people are going to tend to optimize what they do on the
So before I
internet
go into detail, I
based on
want
what
to
actually
emphasize
works
the
well.
transport
It's
network
not
we have in mind is actually
they
mainly
will
on
notice that it
used to be
works badly
ISDH, now it's
because
more
it
OTN
goes
and
beyond
WDM
what can be
networks.
done in the fast path.
So we
I'm
are
not sure
really
it's
taking a step to meet the
an actual
requirements
real
from
problem
operators,
that we have
which
to
is
provide,
the management control
strong
of
guidance on what
multi-domain
works,
networks, as well
today,
as
but
fast
might
service
be
innovations.
fine in 5
We know
years
there
from
are
now.
efforts in terms of providing open devices, but we are following a different kind, which is trying to provide openness while a layer of abstraction through controllers. So what we will see two use cases to see what I meant by a layer of abstraction. So you see here from the use case one that here is talking about the data center interconnection, which is data centers connected by the transport networks. And so here the focus of this job is really on the interface between the data and central network controller and the transport network controllers. The functions we see that is needed.
So
is
I think the document as it stands, I agree with Eric. I think it's
the
a good
information
piece of
about
work and a
access
good summary of
links
things that
between the
are being observed by
data centers and the
various
transport
people.
networks.
I do share the concern of
See
putting
an example
marker in the
of
sand
just access
about
link between the
limits of
DC1 and E1.
the extension header chain. But I think the first 2 points there, the first 2 bullet points are something that we
send
could
a service
develop
request
informational documents on to give people some guidance. I'd be wary on the third point of saying we shall cap
So here the data center network controllers might want to establish
extension
a
header
connection
chains. For some
between
reason, that's hard to say.
DC1 and
bytes
DC2
at
for
this
like
stage. I think that
certain
would be,
bandwidth.
I agree, that would be silly.
That's sending while the interface I've mentioned here. And the third one is actually optional. If the transport network controller can provide the underlying topology information, whether it's abstract or not, for sure the DC controller can have more control over the
Jen and
resource
others have done
usage.
show that as you make the header chain longer,
The second
you
use
get
case
less
we are presenting here
reliability in
is
the end-to-end transmission. There's no
multi-domain
question about that.
network case.
But in terms of what we can do
so
here,
again, the focus
charter
here
of this
is
work
the
is to identify
interface
operational
to
issues and
network domain controller
informational or BCP guidance on how to deal with them. I think the first 2 things are things
functions I
we
mentioned
do.
previously
The third
about
one, I share
obtaining the access
concern I'm
access
hearing
link
about
information
putting a hard
as
limit
well
on
as
that.
the ability
this
to issue
document,
the service
the
request
observation,
still
or
applies
the other
to this
document that's
scenario.
currently with the IS.
Additionally, we think
we
that
should be-
the whatever you call it above the domain controller, the orchestrator or coordinator or other entities, and the access to the topologies reported by each controller, including the interdomain links, is needed in this case.
I kind of support this document. I just want to be clear on the first 2
is the
bullets.
ability to
The last one is a
set
snapshot
up,
in time.
delete or modify the
because the
tunnels,
length will be increasing.
whether it's within one domain
So I
or
consider
it's
this
cross
but I
domain
fully support you on
tunnels.
BCP on the first 2 ones.
So this one is slides is giving you a feeling about the YAM models,
Michael Abrams.
which,
So yeah, I
can
rethought.
be,
That's in the beginning was
relevant
all
to the
again there
functions
was
I mentioned
filtering
previously
instead
for
of
the 2
being
use
dropped.
cases. So we
Yeah, but
classified it into
in the
3
presentation
camps.
in
First
the
one is
beginning, I
topology.
think we're still filtering.
So they already incorporated on IETF
saying
the
this,
generic topology model, and in
it's
TEAS
important
working group
to
we
say
have
this,
the
a lot of this
TE
is being
topology
done
model.
without any
In
intent.
Ccamp we already have the layer 1 topology. Here I named it as OTN topology. Actually, it's the
Mike
same.
Ackerman.
So we also
This
have
is
the
really
W-sub topology model as well as the flex grid topology model. So you actually see the augmentation relationship between them from this diagram. And the second type is the tunnel model. Well, we already have in TEAS working group the TE YAM model, which actually is a TE tunnel YAM model, as I see. And
encourage
so
contractors
we
to process
see there are
in hardware.
technology-specific tunnel
maybe that's
YAM model
for this committee,
missing.
'cause that's on the
Here are
line of a
listed the
protocol
ODU
change,
tunnel,
perhaps,
OCH tunnel, as
that's
well
what I'd
as
like to see,
Let's Brick
because
tunnel. That's the work
future is
we
not
might
bright.
take as a next step. And also other models. The first one, the connectivity service model, is actually proposed in this draft. And the second is we see there might be more service models needed in the future.
A lot of routers that only support
and also
one
the
MPLS
scheduling
label.
one is
Therefore,
used to be in
cap on it.
topology, but now it's taking
label.
out to a different
I suspect
draft,
the MPLS
but it's there
guys
for a
would be
long
very
time.
upset because
And
you wouldn't
so,
have had MPLS VPNs. You would have never
as
had
you probably know
superwires. You would
that
have those
we
things that
actually
require
have a
two
joint
levels,
session
much less all
tomorrow
the new use cases
for
now that
the
are
models,
6 labels,
which
7 labels.
because
Yeah.
it's actually maybe
Full segment.
relevant to outside of Ccamp. So I'm going to
they didn't-
present that connectivity service model there in order to
or
present the
then
same thing in
this-
2 sessions.
As
So this
I think
pretty
it-
much come to us to say whether this is one of the use case you have in mind and if there's anything missing. And also, as I said, we might working on the technology-specific YAM models in the future. If you're interested, please contact us and work with us. Thank you.
Igor Bruskin, Huawei. Sean, just curious, you said that we need technology-specific models for tunnels, right? You know this model that we're working with Derek and Pawan and others. Okay, so which parameters do you think are missing, say, to set up OTN tunnel, in your opinion?
For OTN tunnel, if you're talking about ODU, then you might need the ability to set specific time slots you want to associate with the tunnel you are initiating.
Yeah, but you can do this with the arrow, right? You can specify as label any kind of self-use or lambdas or whatever.
I think
in arrow you can augment link with label, right?
Yeah. I think I need to check the details to see if it can do that or not. If you're right, it can be included in a label, then probably yes, no, we don't need any further additional models. Yeah.
So I had a question about the use case 1.
Your name, please.
So Anurag Sharma, Infinera. Why is the data center use case different from any other use case? Like this is just a service between any 2 points, right? Client points. So why we specifically kind of focused on the data center use case?
This actually it's as you said, it's nothing special, but it's really a typical use cases when we talking about SDN solution for transport networks. That's why I put it here.
Okay, but this okay. Well, and the same is the case with the use case 2, which is like interdomain. And I think some of this is being covered by the T topology as well, like the interdomain links and so on. So is there something, since you're kind of augmenting from the T topology, is there something going to be specific about this, or is this already covered there?
No, I'm not talking we need additional models to cover the interdomain links. It's actually, I see it can already be covered in the T topology.
Right.
So I'm really trying to emphasize with the use case interface I'm talking about, because when you come to see a YAM model, you don't really tell whether it's between the controller and device or a controller to further northbound client.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant.
Okay, because if these 2 use cases are very generic, then I'm not very sure what you're trying to cover in the model itself.
I'm sure I get your point.
So if these 2 use cases are very generic, the first one is the data center connectivity, so which is like any other service, and this one is covered by the T topology. So I'm not very sure what you're trying to cover in the model itself.
Okay. So it's basically trying to this is already ongoing work in the young models. I'm not saying we need a separate thing, separate models to cover the functions I mentioned, the use cases. So it's actually trying to tell by the use case that we want to use the models in that specific interface.
Okay, maybe
Yeah,
we can
because
talk.
if you look at the T topology model, maybe I take the tunnel ones. The T tunnel is leading is actually previously many specific focus on device, right? Now it's generic to device and the controller, but that's actually Ego and I and other people working together to push for that direction.
Okay, maybe we can discuss offline. All right, thanks.
Hi, Lou Berger. So what part of this is specific to a specific technology?
I would say the bottom ones, I mean the OTN.
Of what you're, not the whole thing, but what of what you're proposing, of your draft.
Okay, the connectivity service model, it's really, we are still having internal debate, but I'm proposing for soliciting wider opinions on this. Actually.
So we had discussion that that work that started in WSON should be more generic because we want to use it for other technologies. So we did that as part of that RFC process. So I guess if you have something specific to a technology, it certainly belongs in this working group. But if it's not, it doesn't belong here. And that's part of the reason why I said present in the other one, have the discussion once. So, you know, I certainly hope you're not going to show up in the joint session and present these same slides.
No, I'm not actually.
But so going forward, if there's something here that's specific to a technology, is that better? Sorry. Great. But if it's generic, it doesn't belong here.
Yeah, your point taken. I will see what we can do.
Please.
Thank you. And Yuji from Fujitsu. And one comment reading this draft. And reading this draft, the draft introduces transport services. And so I'm little confused. And does this document try to provide some services? This is the object for the draft. And since this draft describes some services such as E-line, E-line, or something like this. So, and please clarify the transport services in this draft. This is main major comment on this.
You mean that you don't see anything which is transport specific, or?
Yeah, and 5.3, and you introduce transport services where the E-line or EV-line or something like Ethernet service is tried to be provided, but nothing information is introduced in this draft.
Actually, if it is relating to the connectivity service model, I would defer to the joint young sessions on that because I'm showing the model over there. And I think Lou is right that it's probably wider than just Ccamp. I mean, the technology specific part.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may jump in, I would say that for sure there is something in this draft that is not technology specific. So what we needed to understand if there is something technology specific. In that case, my suggestion would be to take the technology agnostic part away from the draft and have them discussed in TIS and leave the technology specific part in Ccamp. We needed to understand if this technology specific part exists. Okay.
Actually, the OTN topology, we already have jobs in Ccamp. I haven't presented yet.
Okay.
So it'll come up next time.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Last question.
So, Loa Anderson, I have a question to what you just said. Let's say all the specific technologies you have actually is within Ccamp. Do you still take it off to TIS to do the what you call a generic model?
No. I'm saying this draft is defining something new. If in that something new, there is a something technology specific, we take it in Ccamp, either in a new draft or push it into existing drafts. And take the technology agnostic part to tease, either in a new draft or in existing drafts.
So what you call technology and agnostic, are we sure that it actually applies to anything outside what you're doing in Ccamp?
This is something we needed to understand.
Yeah. So the decision is not to take it away. The decision is to do the analysis.
Exactly. Yes. And as Shannon Lu reminded, this draft will be presented at the joint session tomorrow. With it's a teaser session. It's a joint session together with MPLS and NPC and me.
Okay. Good morning. This is Gabriele Galimberti speaking. We start writing these models for the optical parameters because we have some requirement coming from customers and from the community to make controllers, centralized controllers, and distributed controllers that should be multi-vendor and multi-layer capabilities. In case of multi-vendor capabilities, as per today, each vendor has its own secret source, and so the optical impairment, the optical parameters are not disclosed in some way, but operators are asking for SDN controllers able to manage multi-vendor networks. So in some way, we have to keep in mind that, or give the possibility to share and transfer optical parameters from the network to the controller, and that is the need of this kind of work. So the document scope is to provide a way, a medium, to transfer those parameters, to share those parameters between the controllers and the network. And we refer to do this to existing document, which is the Ccamp WSON impairment validation and the impairment validation encoding. So we didn't do anything very new. And also, this document can extend the Ccamp WSON YAM model that is going to become a working group document. So the models that we define here actually are from in some way generic and in some other way specific, so vendor specific. This is another problem we should look at, because we would like to have or to provide either SDN vendor and SDN and network vendors the way to interoperate between each other. So here is just the schematic of the models, and we have not defined all the schema for all the models, as you can see reading the document, but we have some or many models that should be understood where to put and what to augment. So my suggestion is to look at the draft and then start the discussion. So what we would like to do as a next step. Number one, sanitize the models we already put in the document, and start the discussion whether this model or the other model is useful or not useful. Second, identify the way to assign some impairment models to interface instead of to nodes, instead of, I don't know. This is, again, a matter that we should investigate. Another important point is understand how can we provide a proprietary model or a model to carry proprietary parameters. This is, again, something that will be addressed because we have, or we see, a bunch of small companies claiming to provide SDN controllers to everybody, able to manage all the vendors, and not defining or not using or using proprietary interface, which, in my opinion, in our opinion, should be better to drive into AI models direction. Finally, get feedbacks, consensus, collaboration from Ccampers, and see how this proposal can be either integrated or completed or extended compared to the models we already have. That's all.
Questions?
I know that the matter we are dealing here is very sensitive, and so I would expect a lot of
exactly. My
negative feedbacks.
I'm scared about bullet 2. Please.
Thank you. And Yuji from Fujitsu again, and I have a question for clarification about 7.3 in your draft. And it says the IETF opt parameter WDM is an argument to the question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. What does that question mark mean? Thank you.
That is what I said now, because some parameters, honestly, we got some difficulties to link to a specific or to augment something already existing. Like, for example, amplifier tilt is a node parameter, is an interface parameters. What is that? And this is a matter of technical discussion again.
So simply saying it's still work in progress, right?
No, it is very in progress, actually.
Okay.
This is the first proposal that should get the feedbacks. Thanks a lot.
Dieter Bellanuk here. This draft actually reminds me of a discussion that we had 3 years ago in Orlando when we had a special or a specific session in the afternoon on Friday with invited people from ITUT question 6. During that meeting, we also discussed, well, how can we actually make sure that based on some parameters, the optical feasibility could be achieved across different vendors. The outcome of this discussion, and I remember pretty well, is that first of all, we also need to define what are the mathematical formulas that have to be applied in order to figure out whether an optical path is feasible or not. And then the folks also said that it's quite taking into account the nonlinear optical impairments, which also have to be taken into account, is fairly complex and requires further study. And I don't know what has been done in question 6 in the last 3 years, but I suppose that, or I guess that not much has happened and that this is still an open issue that needs to clarify. So I'm wondering what we can do here with defining a Yang model that defines all these optical impairment parameters without knowing what to do with the parameters.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dieter. That's a good question that may open a quite wider discussion. In the sense that here, what we would like to do is just provide a media to transfer the parameters. And if you think about an SDN controller, the SDN controller can be with some extent general, and then can provide some hooks or can provide the way to include some plugin that are at this point vendor specific and designed by each vendor to, let's say, calculate the feasibility of a channel with the vendor secret source. So what we would like to give to the vendor here is just an interface and the possibility to get those parameters from the network, if you want, cross-transparently at the beginning through the SDN controller, go to the application, check the feasibility, and then go down with the feasible path. That is what we got in mind.
Yeah, if I properly understand what's currently specified in the draft is that these are mainly parameters that are applicable to optical transmitters and receivers, and also to amplifiers to some extent. Right? What is still missing there is the optical impairment parameters for the fiber links, because fiber types, the characteristics of the fiber, power values, depending on which may also have an effect on the nonlinear impairments, etc., also have to be kept in mind. And I know pretty well what I'm talking about when we discuss optical feasibility calculations.
Yeah. That's a good point. Thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry. We need to move on.
Quick comment. Okay, I have one quick comment. Sorry, I have the mic. Okay, actually, when I reviewed this draft, I found that you have a lot of the descriptions about a link to the blank link stuff, you know. Actually, you have another separate draft to define the young model for the blank link. So, I mean, it's better to decouple them. WSON impairment is WSON impairment. Blank link is blank link.
Correct.
Right. Please do not mix them together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks.
It was a good quick comment. Okay. Now we are moving to our remote participation experiment. I see Jonas is ready. I don't know. Are you presenting your slides, or are you? Do you have some way of sharing the slides, or should I just move them forward for you?
I would appreciate if you could help me.
Okay. Just tell me how to move.
Okay.
Please.
Hi all, I'm Jonas Ahlberg, and I will present a proposal to create an IETF model for management of microwave radio links. Next page, please. I will cover the background of why we are doing this, and I will explain our reason for proposing a model based on IETF interface management model. And I will also make a comparison with the microwave model being standardized in ONF at the moment. Then I will show the overall structure of the proposed model, and finally go through the status and suggested next steps. Next page, please. The background is that we have seen that there is an increased focus on standardization of node northbound interfaces in general within the industry, with the purpose to simplify multi-vendor management, possibly remove the need for vendor or domain-specific management solutions, and enable use of open source systems. And there is also a strong push for transport SDN, including microwave, where unified management with open and standardized interfaces is in focus. And ONF is currently the only active polling so far as I know. But all in all, it's clear that standardization of microwave is about to happen. And we think that it's important to try to get it right from the beginning. And we believe that there are alternatives to the ONF approach that are worth exploring. Next page, please. And we believe that there are clear benefits with an IETF model for microwave radio link management. Our proposed model leverages the strengths of the Young model for interface management, RFC 7223, by augmenting it with microwave radio link specific extensions. And a microwave node is more than just radio link, as I guess you know. It includes lots of layer 2 functionality, and over time more and more layer 3 functionality will be added. And with this model, with this proposal, radio link will be aligned and managed in the same way as those other packet interfaces in the microwave node, which we believe are very beneficial. We also propose a structure that allows for an easy extension of the standardized model with vendor or product-specific extensions. And the main advantages, as we see, are to speed up standardization of the first version of a model, where areas where there are big differences between vendors can be put in vendor-specific models and be introduced at a later stage when the area becomes more mature. We also believe that it helps not to slow down innovation in the area of microwave. Technology evolution and innovation is fast, and product introduction should not be dependent upon standardization, which is in many cases is slow. So by treating radio link as just another interface in a microwave node, we see that it will give clear usability and system integration benefits on node and network level. For example, users will be able to manage radio link in the same way and use the same type of user interfaces or dialogues as for other interfaces in a microwave node and on a network level. And we also believe that interface management model is likely to be handled off the shelf, and thereby parts of an associated microwave radio link model in the same way as systems do today for the interface need using Ccamp. Next page, please. I've received numbers of questions related to why we're doing this, since there is an ongoing activity within ONF targeting a similar model. And yes, the models are similar in terms of the use cases and parameters supported, but they use structures which are fundamentally different, and that's what we would like to explore. The ONF model is based on the ONF core model for SDN, and thereby it does not provide the benefits we see with the IETF approach. It also has a broader scope and is more detailed, in that sense that vendor-specific extensions should not be needed, which also is different from the suggested IETF approach. Next page, please. This is just an overview of the overall structure, and our proposal is to augment the interface management model with two new types of interfaces: carrier termination, providing the capacity over the air, a carrier, and a radio link terminal, describing how those carrier terminations are combined into bonded or protected configurations. We've also included additional entities for more detailed information about the configuration of 1+1 protected radio links and XBIC and MIMO configurations. And as already mentioned, I've added some examples on how vendor-specific extensions might be added to these models. And the next slide is just simply stating how I see that the carrier terminations radio link terminals are associated with the higher level interfaces within a node or within a network, providing traffic capacity, for example, to an Ethernet port. Next page, please. And I've finally submitted and the 0.0 version, and it's been published today. But I've sent out a heads up a couple of weeks ago to the work group mailing list. We have started discussions offline with work group members and also ONF representatives from both operators and vendors to call for co-authors and contributors. This draft proposal a specific structure, but otherwise it should be seen as a starting point for continued work defining a model for microwave radio link management. There are numerous questions that remains to be understood, and some of them are: does it support the necessary operator use cases? Is the structure for bonding and protection generic enough to be standardized? Do we have the right balance between what should be standardized and what should belong to a vendor-specific module? Do we use the right terminology within the industry? I see that the next step is to collect feedback from the working group, keep the draft aligned with ongoing young modeling work, and hopefully as soon as possible reach work group status. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonas. Any question?
Hi, Lou Berger. How much of the model do you think is specific to microwave, and how much is sort of generic RF?
We are, of course, using the parameters and attributes in the interfaces and interface state parts. And then I'm not quite sure how to answer the question. It's quite a number of attributes that we have included in addition to what's in the standard. Not that much in the radio link terminal, because it's mainly describing how the carrier terminations are combined into various configurations. But there are lots of microwave or radio link specific parameters in the carrier termination objects.
Yeah, I may be missing something because I actually didn't look at the draft until it was posted today. But as I understood it, it looked like there was a good percentage of, or a good portion of the model that was really had to do with the fact that you were on a radio link, and didn't have to do with the fact that you were on a microwave radio link. So it would seem to me that this type of work would be good, but it could be structured in such a way that the next time someone comes with a RF link, that we don't have to redo the whole model, but we could just add in the part that is specific to that technology. And by the way, that would still be Ccamp. I'm not scolding. Just to be clear.
I'm getting worried that you're trying to steal all of our job.
This one you can have. Sorry, I don't want it. But it does seem that a good portion of it is.
Okay, so more generic than just microwave. Try to cover all the radio links.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
Good point. Thank you.
So, Rüdiger Kunze, Deutsche Telekom. So we discussed a little bit internally your proposal, and there are activities running in ONF. You mentioned this here, and I would to do this work together with the guys from ONF. This is a multi-operator proposal there, and yeah, I would for a multi-vendor interoperability here to and focus at first on that point, and then on the vendor-specific things additionally.
Yeah, that will be good. And since you are a member or part of this multi-vendor alliance, if you would like to bring them to the IETF to discuss this with us, it would be super great. Okay, you can come. It's your turn. We have another question. Okay, quick, please.
Sure. So I'm Carlos Bernardos, UC3M. Going back to your point, so knowing that there is an effort in ONF, my question will be whether why this is not being done in collaboration with them at ONF?
It can be done in it can be done in cooperation here. I mean, it's
yes.
Yeah, but I think that so that
yes,
will be my
this work has been done perhaps not in cooperation, but with the full visibility of the ONF forum working on the microwave model there. But the reason for bringing it here is that it is not minor differences in terms of what should be covered or if there are changes in details that needs to be done. What we are doing is we would like to understand if the IETF structure is more suitable for management of microwave radio links instead of the ONF structure. And that's the reason for bringing it here. But my hope is that once we get a better understanding what the industry is looking for, that we can work together in ONF and IETF around the standardization of the microwave management model.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonas. If you want to stay with us, you are more than welcome. Rudiger, please.
Okay. Rüdiger Kunze, Deutsche Telekom. So this is the framework document for the management and control of single-channel optical interfaces. And this is now a working group document. Okay. Due to the late poll for working group adoption, we were not able to bring a new version up, but as I show you later, there are some things done, and this will be immediately updated after the IETF meeting. So very fast, I'm going through the intro and motivation for this document. I presented this last meeting as well. So the scope is here, if you move from the classic way of operation of transport networks using gray interfaces to ensure interoperability, if you move to a more progressive model where you put the interfaces into the routers and define and moving as well the line side of the DWDM model into the router, then you have to deal with some issues. First of all, you have to ensure interoperability. There are some activities in ITOT trying to ensuring interoperability of DWDM interfaces. And on top of them, you have to ensure that the right parameter sets are exchanged towards the management system and as well to the control plane. And therefore, you need a standardized way to exchange these parameters and define these parameters in a multi-vendor environment, of course. Sorry. So I think, the scope was already explained as well. This document deals with the use cases and the requirements for this kind of deployment models, and as well gives the guidance for the LMP draft, the interface draft, and the Yang model for DWDM interfaces, and as well the SNMP MIP that Gert will present later. This is just to explain a little bit where we are laying the focus in a pictured way, already mentioned, I think. So not in scope is the WZone work. So we are focusing here primarily on the, as I mentioned, on the single channel interfaces. And what comes in the next version? So first of all, we did a lot of rephrasing and error correction in the document, making the document better readable. So this is the first thing, using common terms and technologies. we did a further cleanup, deleted some unnecessary text, and this morning we proposed a new table of content, a new structure a little bit, yeah, showing here on the screen here. So first of all, the intro is clear. So the new document starts then with architectural options for IP over DWDM environments. So describing the difference, as I mentioned, between gray and the colored solutions. Then we are going into the solutions and dealing with the management and the control plane considerations, including signaling, routing, and the usage of LMP. Then we will have the use cases section where we bring in all the different use cases, and last but not least, the requirements section of the document.
Okay, I would just like to add that this morning we had a discussion. We didn't have the time to send my comments to the mailing list. Basically, my proposal was to rearrange the table of contents to improve readability. There is no new text. There is anything added with respect to the version that we adopted. It is just a reshaping, exactly, a new makeup for the draft to improve readability. Then once you will have it published, please let's keep on working from this point of view.
Okay, so we will restructure it now and then upload it after the IETF.
Yes.
Gabriele speaking. We can try to make it by end of this section, by end of this week. Okay. And then so we can.
It will be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Here. Good. Next, please.
Any other questions? So that's
sorry,
that's
not
all.
from my side.
Okay.
Gert is the next one. Did all of you sign the blue sheets? We've been too fast to collect them. You have the mic.
Hey. So this is basically about the three drafts. I put them all together because they're addressing the same topics. What are the changes? So first of all, there have been a lot of changes in naming. I think some of those drafts are already 2 or 3 years old. But due to naming conventions, we had to change all those namings. So I hope this time is the last time we need to change anything, and we keep it together. So that kind of gives you a little bit of history where we came from. The reference model, just as a reminder, let's go first for the Yang draft. What are the considerations for the Yang draft? So the Yang model shall be used for configuration. It is independent of any kind of controller architecture. So whether you have an element management system, a network management system, a controller, if you have 1, 2, 3, or 5, it doesn't matter. What the way we are describing it is basically it's a northbound interface of an element in the network. So the structure of the EMS is, or NMS, whatever, is out of scope. There was also a bit of a discussion whether the right option for power is appropriate. So here in our draft, we allow the controller to set a power value on an interface. Not all interfaces are able to do so, but there exists some where you can set the output power. So we kept the model in, but made sure that that we put some language around that is optional to be supported. Then there was a third comment about interfaces where it was about notifications. There's a notification in that basically informs the controller if, for example, the wavelength changes. Well, that can happen if the network itself is GMPLS enabled, so you have RSVP, and via RSVP you obviously can set the wavelengths. So if that is the case, they need to be a notification to the controller to make sure that the controller is aware of that change. So that's the reason why we kept the notifications in the draft, to make it basically compatible with a GMPLS-enabled network. Next draft, that's about LMP. So LMP is about negotiation of parameters. There was another presentation also about LMP related to flex grades. So this one is basically about the parameter of the optical parameters, both of the ROADM and the optical interface. What we are doing here is we just determine, let's say, the operational boundaries in which an interface can operate. So for example, if you have a fully tunable interface, you plug it into a WDM system which has a fixed, let's say a fixed input channel. There's only one channel you can select, so that is a limitation. Or you have a 50 gigahertz grid. So those kind of information is exchanged via LMP. LMP does not provision anything. It does not configure anything. So that's often discussed. I think we discussed it already 3 or 4 times. We do not intend to configure anything via LMP. This is an information exchange. There is a negotiation phase, but there's no way of configuring anything here in LMP. So this is in line with anything else in LMP. Well, just to make it clear again, we do not exchange anything. SNMP MIP consideration. So actually, that's a kind of a partner draft to the Yang model. It's kind of the same model. The reason why it is still here is we started with SNMP, and then IETF decided to move everything to Yang models. So that's kind of a predecessor. We still kept it here because a lot of things are done in SNMP, and in particular, let's say in read mode, SNMP is still widely used. So we'll probably keep the draft and aligned with the Yang model. We also will put a language in that we depreciate any kind of set, which is in this draft for wavelengths, for example, via SNMP, and point to now the new name of the Yang draft. So just to make sure that let's say keeping both in line, but essentially trying to hint that everybody should, if you have a choice, use the Yang model and not the SNMP one. It's kind of, let's say, just for backward compatibility. So, and again here, it's the same mentioning as before about the notifications. If anything changes the wavelengths of an interface, that needs to be notified to a controller to make sure that is aware about it. So, same thing. Next steps. Number one is stop renaming the drafts. So we now want to move along. We, of course, would also like to streamline the existing drafts with wording to align with the framework. So framework is still a little bit of work, but I think we're very close already. Third point, I'm not sure. Did I mention it, that LMP is not for configuration? No?
Don't
Okay,
recall.
so remind you. Sorry, and well, we depreciate the SNMP set option, and of course we welcome any kind of feedback from the group.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you are putting effort both on Yang and SNP. My question is it's just in order to provide the same features to new devices supporting Yang and old devices supporting SNMP, or you are planning to use Yang and SNMP for different purposes on possibly the same device?
Well, as a matter of fact, there are already existing implementations of the SNMP part. mostly of the read, well, the way SNMP works, including also on the controller side. So I don't think that from a router or switch perspective, changing from SNMP to Yang changes everything. But often on the controller side, people like to keep using SNMP because of, well, whatever your guess is. So we decided, instead of just leaving it aside and don't define it, just make sure that they are aligned and pull it in as a kind of, let's say, second kind of importance, just making sure that they really match.
Just for being politically correct with the two protocols. Okay. Any other question? Okay. Let's move to the last presentation.
This is Chile from the IETF, and this slide is about the Flexi control plan. And this slide includes two documents. One is a framework document, and the other is a signaling document. First, the introduction of flexible Ethernet. This is because ORF has released the flexible Ethernet implementation agreement, and we just give a brief introduction of Flexi. Flexi is a new kind of data plan technology, and it uses a bunch of Ethernet files binding together, and as a group, and this group can be used to support a variety of Ethernet migrations. Currently, the Ethernet file used by Flexi is only 100 gig Ethernet. And every file is modeled by the Flexi Ccamp as 20 slots. Each slot has a granularity of 5 gig. The slide 3, this slide shows the Flexi relationship to REE 802.3 stack. And as depicted in the picture, we can see that the Ccamp can be envisioned as being in the middle of 100 gig stack. And in current version of Flexi, is 3 scenarios are given. And the first one is an unaware case, and the second one is a terminating case, and the last one is aware case. The first case, unaware case. And this case may be used with the liaison transport equipment. And the transport equipment provides no special support for Flexi. So when signal carried over transport network, the Flexi client signal first mapped into Flexi, and then over the Ethernet file, and then over the OTA. The second case, the aware case. This case is different from the previous one. And in this case, the transport equipment is aware that it is carrying the Flexi signal. And at the transport access equipment, the Flexi slots is switched to dual K slots at a slab level. So, and maybe due to the transport constraints, some slots may be unavailable and will be dropped before mapping. Also, this slide gives a layer model. When the signal carried over the Ethernet link, and the mapping hierarchy, the client first mapped over, first carried by Flexi, and then carried by Ethernet file. And when the signal carried over transport network, the mapping hierarchy is different, and that is the client carried by Flexi, and then by the OTA. And the last one is the terminating case. This case, in this case, the Flexi group is terminated before crossing the transport network, and the Flexi client is extracted from the flash signal and then carried over the transport network. There are also two mapping hierarchies in this scenario. The first one, signal carried over the Ethernet link, and the second one, the signal carried over the transport network. And in the second one, the flash client is extracted. So the client is directly carried by the OTN. So the slide 7, this slide just describe the control plane requirements. The first one is signaling. The signaling, based on the FlexE technology feature, the signaling shall be able to assign FlexE group number, file number, slots for clients, and also the signals should be able to indicate why partition rate happen. And the routing protocols are update the advertisement of available resources and capabilities, including the partition rate support for information, and the unused slot information on each Ethernet file. And the link management protocol, the control plane should allow the nodes at the opposite end of the link to correlate the unavailable slot information that are parallel to the link. And as addressed in the previous slides, the unavailable slot is maybe due to the transport network constraints. Okay. Let's move quickly. This slide just gives the signaling agitation, and we can see this label, and the signal use the label to assign the group number, file number, and the slots information. Also, a new query is activated in the IOSP attributes object to calculate the end-to-end available slots number. And this is the signaling procedure, just in the unaware case. And this is the network scenario. B and E are like you capable nodes, and C and D and are traditional OTN service capable nodes. So before the setup of flash connection, the node B should check the availability of the Ethernet file from B to E. After the setup of the Ethernet file IOSP from B to E, and then the FlexE signal is sent towards E. The second case is the aware case. This case is different because at every hop, the FlexE must make sure the Ethernet file is set up, or the audio ISP is set up first. So it's different. Before the signaling of the FlexE, it must check the server layer. Yep. Okay, that's all. Comment.
Any comments? So one quick comment from me. So actually, Flex Ethernet only provides interface, and it does not provide networking capability, which means that FlexE cannot support switching. So in this means that we only care about, from the control plane perspective, we only care about the adaptation part, Okay. Time's out. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
So I understood.
Did all of you sign the blue sheets? Anyone missing? Where are the blue sheets?
So
state, you know, designed for that purpose. There are some concerns there on PX changes that they're just looking at on the. Have you looked at the stuff? Because I think they can similar solutions. We also just give me your email address way of solving this.
Thank you very much. Since you're changing the